Hi, this is Marsha.
And this is Kelly.
We are the 2U's of 2U's Fiber Adventures. Thanks for stopping by.
You'll hear about knitting, spinning, dyeing, crocheting, and just about anything else we can think of as a way to play with string.
We blog and post show notes at 2usfiberadventures.com.
And we invite you to join our 2U's Fiber Adventures group on Ravelry. I'm 100 Projects.
And I am Better in Motion.
We're both on Instagram and Ravelry, and we look forward to meeting you there.
Enjoy the episode. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Marsha. How are you?
I'm fine. I say welcome home.
Yes. Thank you. We had a really pretty uneventful drive home. There was snow on the side of the road and rain, a little bit of rain, but it was really a beautiful drive. We missed the weather on both ends. We drove up before the bad weather started. We drove home after the bad weather ended, and now I've been home for a week. Yeah. I came home to jury duty. I had to call over the weekend while we were on the road. I called, or actually, you don't have to call anymore. I was able to go online and do it. I went online and found out, yes, my status was that I was still summoned, but I was no longer summoned at 8:15. I was summoned at 10 a.m. on Monday. So that was good. And then most of my day turned out to be going on break. You know, they say, go on a break, take a long lunch. We got back from lunch. Okay, they impaneled a group of people. And then, okay, well, now let's go on a break again. So I got a lot of knitting done. A lot of knitting done.
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
That's good. So, but you never got on a jury?
No. I never even got on a panel.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, it was a pretty uneventful day at jury duty. And then I've been just back at work for the rest of the week. So glad to be home, but it was a fun trip and really enjoyed it.
It was a fun visit. And everybody's asked me, what fun things did you do? And I'm like, basically, all we did was walk the dogs.
Right. And we wove.
And we wove and we knitted and we had a few glasses of wine and we ate a lot of good food too, I think.
Yes. Well, you make good food. You're a good cook, Marsha.
Well, and we went over to your niece's house and that meal was, her boyfriend made a delicious meal.
Oh my gosh.
Really good.
Yes.
So it was a super fun. Yeah, really fun week. So
yes, that it was.
So we're all back to normal now.
Yeah, back to normal. Chaos, the normal chaos.
Well, let me look at my notes here because I think we're going to talk about. It's been months we've been talking about wanting to talk about Game of Wool, and we're finally going to do it in this episode.
We are.
But we think we're going to do we are going to get to that at this episode, but we think we're just going to have a little quick update of our projects, but we're not going to talk about every single one, just the ones we've been working on. So do you want to go first or?
Sure. Yeah, I can do that. So I haven't been working on very much. Really, the big project that I've been working on is the new project that I started when I was up at your house. It's called it's been in my queue for a really long time. And the yarn that I have paired with it is very old stash. Do you remember when I made the octopus, that orange octopus? Well, when I did that, I bought a cone of yarn from Knit Picks because I wanted to dye the yarn for that octopus. And so I did. I dyed the dark orange for the outside and the light orange for the underneath. And then I had a bunch left over and I just decided to dye it red. So I've had this red Knit Picks stroll bear from a cone forever. Like, I don't know, 2014 maybe? 2015? Long time. Okay. And then I also had this skein of Culinet Jitterbug that we bought on our very first yarn crawl before we even started the podcast. That was the trip where we recorded a little small snippet to see if it was even something we wanted to do. And so that would have been in we started in 2014. So it was probably in the early fall or maybe the summer, I can't remember, of 2014.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this yarn is the Colonet is a dozen years old at least, and the other one is at least 10. So oldest, I think it's my oldest stash. I'm not totally positive about that, but I think it's my oldest stash. At least it's my oldest commercial yarn. I think I've used up all my old hand spun when I did the blanket. But anyway, so what am I making after all this buildup?
Well, I'm just going to interject about stash, because on that trip and going to, I think that was in Cambria, I think, where we bought that. Yeah, because I bought a skein of it too, Kelly, and it's still in my stash. I'm not currently making anything with it, nor have I made anything with it. So,
I wanted to make socks with it, but I thought it was fingering, but it was had the label on it said sport, and it was only 360 yards or something, and I was afraid that wasn't enough. I was kind of worried that wasn't enough for a pair of socks.
Yeah,
and thinking back on it now, I think it would have been fine. There's a lot of yarn in that cake so it might be even more than 360 yards that it says on the label. But anyway, I'm now using it, and I love how it looks, not so much how it feels. You were able to feel it when I started at your house. So let me tell the project first. It's the Study Hall Shawl by Sarah Shira. And I wanted to make this for a while. It's mosaic knitting, and it's a really interesting design. You do these, it's called a Sanquar pattern that has these little squares. And slip stitches. It's all done with slip stitches. So it's really fun, quite fun. Garter stitch, slip stitches section, and then there's going to be a basket weave section later on. And so I'm quite far on it. I did the garter stitch at your house, and then I started the color work in the car on the way home. So there's a color work section, and then there's more garter stitch, and now I'm on the second color work section of those little mosaic knitting squares. And I'm using the Colonet as the main color, and I'm using the sort of very kettle dyed. I mean, like, it's not variegated, but it's very, very heavily tonal red. So I think it's looking really pretty. I'm enjoying it. And I think I'm going to have enough. I should have plenty. I know I have enough of the red. I have tons of it. So if I do run out of the main color early, I can punt with the rest of the red yarn. But yeah, it's really fun to make something that's been in my my stash for so long and been paired with something, right? I knew I wanted to use the two together. And so that's been really fun. So that's my main project that's active. I finished the third resistance hat on the way up, of course, and I handed that off to you. And
you gave it to me, yeah.
And those socks that I was working on, I did restart them, but never knit them the whole time I was on vacation at your house. So, so yeah, that's it.
First thing, before I talk about projects, I did go on Sunday. Last Sunday, I went down to the Western Washington Fairgrounds in Puyallup. There was a sewing, and it was called the Sewing and Stitchery Show. And I went down to see that, and I won't go into great detail, but it was kind of fun to see it. And sewing is not my main craft. I mean, we've talked about this, but I used to sew, trying to get back into it, but it's a slow start. Dangerous rabbit hole. Sewing. Yeah, anyway, but it was fun to check that out. And then it was so funny too. This has nothing to do with the show, but I think this is a Pacific Northwest thing. Fisher Flour Mills, and they, at the Puyallup Fair, they always would sell scones. Not like the English scones, but our own version of scones, and they were delicious. And anyway, they had a trailer. They were nothing. Most of the food service was not open. Pretty much none of it was open at the fairgrounds, but they did have a trailer with the scones. And that was the first thing I got when I got there was a scone, and then went to shop. Oh, tasted like my childhood. It was wonderful.
That's cool.
Anyway, yeah, it was really nice. Anyway, the main thing I've been working on is Late Bloomer by Heidi Kirrmaier, and I don't know, Kelly, sometimes I think I might be too old for knitting or something because I don't know what my problem is. I just like, oh, well, if I didn't have problems, we'd have no content.
That's right.
Podcast,
exactly.
But, yes. Anyway, I did a swatch and I washed it and blocked it. I did all this stuff and I let it sit for a while, Anyway, my gauge must be way off because I knit the yoke and tried it on, and it's too small. So I just set it aside because I have, I made, let's see, the size I made was called M2. Like there's M1 and M, like two sizes in medium, I guess, M1 and M2. I made the larger one, and I've cast on, and I'm about halfway through knitting my second yoke in the size large. And, what I decided to do, since I think I have enough of the contrasting yarn, I decided just to knit it without unraveling the first one, because I just wanted to get going. And but if I need it, I can unravel it and use that yarn later on. But I just wanted to get going. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But it was just too small. So I texted you and I showed you a picture of it. If you just put the yoke on your shoulders, it looks fine, but then there's not enough fabric to go under the arms.
Yeah.
And you only cast on about 4 stitches. I mean, the raglan part is only about 4 stitches of increase. So it just would not be enough fabric and to reach under the arms. So anyway, that's what's going on with that. And then rag rugs, it was great when you came,
this is exciting part of your, that was the non-exciting sort of sad part of your report. And this is the exciting part of your report.
Yeah, the exciting part. So I had finished 2 rugs. And when you came, I suddenly had the idea, instead of just using all solids, and how would that look with the because my warp is 3 colors. And then you had the idea of retying the heddles to the treadles, and doing a twill. So we did kind of a gradation of blues. I think didn't it go like dark to light and then back to dark,
something like that.
So something like that. And then what did you call it? It's like a 2x2 twill.
It's a 2-2 twill. Yeah,
2-2 twill. So it's like 2 warp threads go up together.
Yeah.
So it said. Isn't that
That's
right? And so, and of course, a twill, even without the 2-2, a twill, the warp is more pronounced than plain weave. So it's kind of interesting to see now the bright colored warp on these different colors of blue. So you did the first half of the rug, and then what you did too is you changed direction of the twill. So let me back up. Each section of fabric that I put in is 6 inches. And then every time we changed the color at 6 inches, you suggested changing the direction of the twill. So sounds easy peasy, Kelly. and then
I made
so
you 2
were weaving, and I made you
2 post-it notes.
Yes. Oh no, you set me up. You said, but anyway, and then so while you were weaving, I was cutting fabric strips. So now I cut out all the rest of the fabric strips, and I finished the second half of that 3rd rug following your instructions. I followed the post-it notes, but you also had pointed out to me that when I weave, I open the shed, throw the shuttle, close the shed, beat, change to the next treadling sequence, open the shed. And so what you said I really should do, and if I've got you should probably say it for me, but it's you throw the shuttle, change the
beat, throw the shuttle, beat.
throw the shuttle, beat.
While it's down,
Change.
is when you change your feet, and then you put the beater back.
Yes. Okay. It's so simple, but I have muscle memory now for doing it the opposite way of what you're suggesting. So I was really focusing on that. And because I was focusing on that, it was no longer just doing, and because I was no longer doing plain weave, I had to keep track of where I was in my twill pattern and which direction I was going, which way they were leaning. Oh, that last half, it took me all day. And I think I had to pull the fabric strips out 4 times because I realized my treadling was wrong, or twice the twill was leaning the wrong direction.
Oh, yeah.
Because we were having it zigzag as the color changed. Anyway, took me all day. So now I'm not complaining, but it's really interesting about your brain is that I have not done as much weaving as you have, but the weaving I've done, I've been doing it what I thought was the right way of when you're beating and when you're changing your shuttles, or I'm not sorry, your heddles. Yeah. And I have to retrain myself again. But I will say that the technique, the way you showed me to do it, the edges, my selvages look 100% better than the way I was doing.
And so, I didn't do that for probably 20 years of weaving. Oh, okay. Until I started the Jane Stafford Guild, and she has a little way of saying it that I don't exactly remember now, but I had to have that in my head the whole time I was weaving, and probably it would have been kinder to you to leave you with a tabby rug to learn it, rather than having to learn that and do twill and change the twill direction every 6 inches. Yeah. It would have been kinder. So
I will say,
but it does make nice selvages.
I will say, so I will say on my 4th rug, the one I'm now going to just do, I was debating whether I should do the twill or not, or just do plain weave or tabby. And I think I'm going to do the twill only because the rag rugs, you really can't get any kind of rhythm like you would where you're throwing a shuttle with cotton thread in it, right, or linen or something, because you have to put it through, and then you have to, especially if it's a printed fabric, what I'm trying to do is get it all so the print side's up before I use the beater and squash it down. So anyway, I may just do the twill because I'm curious now to see. Yeah. I'm going to do a mixture of plain and print fabrics, and I'm interested to see now how the twill and the pronounced warp will look, on a print. Yeah.
And you might want to just do all one direction of twill and not change the directions, because you've got already. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, good. Yeah. Because you've got already some busyness in the patterned fabric now.
Yes, and I don't think my brain can handle it. I just have to. Yeah.
Marsha's brain explodes.
Anyway, but then so that's what's going on with the rag rugs. And then the other thing, you mentioned Jane Stafford, and I thanked you via text, but thank you because you sent me a gift card or the gift of the Jane Stafford Weaving School videdos.
Yeah, it's so fun. So you're gonna love it.
A subscription. That's the word I want. Yeah. So I've had it set up, and I've watched 2 videos so far. Cool. So, and I think this would be a good thing for me to watch besides my doom scrolling that I do. A typical day. This will be more positive.
In service of positive thinking, right?
Yeah. So that's basically what's going on. And then while we're sitting here, I'm just doing a swatch. When I was in Mexico, I bought some yarn. Concept by Katia. It's called Wabi Sabi.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's cotton. Cotton, 85% cotton, 10% viscose, and 5% silk. So it's like for a summer t-shirt, I think. So that's what I'm just sitting here doing, a swatch. So shall we talk
Game of Wool?
Game of Wool?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, let me switch. Let me look back at my notes here and what I was saying.
Okay.
So, well, I will say, so seriously, it's been a while because we have been meaning to talk about this, but things have happened. So I went to Mexico, and then we were going to record while you were here, but we just ran out of time. Too much dog walking and eating and drinking wine. So,
well, and I was working, to be fair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were working too, and I've got projects going on here.
Yeah.
Anyway, should I start with my positives?
Yes.
Or how do you want to approach this?
You start with your positives, and I'll start with my positives, and then we'll move on. And then we'll move on from there.
Okay. So the first thing I think is really positive, because I had dinner with a friend who does not knit, and her comment was she was watching it and she loved it, and it really makes her want to knit. That was the comment. And so I think a positive thing about the show is that people who don't know anything about knitting or crocheting, I think many of them maybe came away excited about the idea of learning this craft. And that's a positive.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And my other positive thing is I really liked all of the contestants. I think they did a really good job picking contestants that had really great personalities. I liked all of them. I especially liked, and now because it's been a while since I watched
the names.
There was I've forgotten the names, but there was the woman who was mostly a crocheter, and she made the very elaborate necklace. But she several times she'd say, "Don't talk to me."
Right.
I'm knitting or crocheting or whatever. I love that because I watched the Great British Baking Show, and the judges go around and talk to them and kind of intentionally try to distract them, I think, a little bit to make for content. And I love the fact that I always want those people to say, "Stop talking to me." Yes. And that's how I really love the fact that she said, "Okay, don't talk to me. I'm knitting."
Well, and not just the judges, but like Tom Daly. She said that to Tom Daly. And in the British Baking Show, it's I don't watch it anymore, so I can't. There's been a couple of different people, but it's the comedy, right? The comedy people. Yes,
and the one guy, I can't remember his name now, but he's got the dark hair. He's always joking around with them, and it's sometimes like, okay, it's pretty stressful in there, and they really don't have time for it. I will say though, I think they did a good job finding people with great personalities. I do think though, it was a little unfair. Some of them were exceptional knitters and had a lot of time on the needles, shall we say. And then other people were fairly new to it and didn't have much time on the needles.
Yeah.
I think in particular, again, I can't remember her name, but the girl with the pink hair, who was so sweet, but then we discover at one point that what she thinks is knitting, she's actually knitting through the back loop. But she thought that was knitting. And so quite inexperienced, and that's one thing is I did feel I know I'm supposed to be talking about positives, but I felt a little bad for some of the people who it felt like they were thrust into something that they didn't quite have the experience that probably they needed for this high pressure situation. But I think that they all really tried. It had mostly a positive. I mean, it would be a very difficult situation to be all these contests they had, but I think the overall very positive attitude towards everything.
I think that's right. And I think you're right about the fact that they had they chose very interesting people, and that was a positive. But it seems to me that for something like this, where the tagline is, Britain's best knitter or something, that the audition process should be about finding people with a high level of skill. And I'm pretty sure that they could have found just as interesting and, a good group of people who all had a level of skill that you would expect to see in a competition like this. I'm pretty sure that the British baking show, they don't pick people who don't have skill, right? Who haven't.
They don't pick people that don't know. They pick people who know how to turn on the oven and how to measure, and they know what the difference between baking powder and baking soda, right? That's
more than that. I would even think I know that, but I shouldn't be on the British baking show.
I'm exaggerating. I'm exaggerating. These people are they're not professional, but they're very accomplished, right? And they have a real depth of knowledge, and that's sort of what I'm saying with this. Is like some of the contestants, lovely people. But they didn't really have quite the depth of experience and knowledge that they possibly needed. And really what I think is unfair to put them in that position.
Exactly.
I think it's a bit unkind.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is my other positive thing. Okay, this doesn't sound positive, but it really was a positive thing. I think the program was a good start. I think that, hopefully they'll listen to viewer feedback and they can improve the show. I wrote here, started watching with excitement, then to rage watching, and then to resignation. I wrote down.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Because I did anyway, so, I do think, like, I'm still fundamentally just really happy that there's a show about knitting and crocheting. But I think it's a start, but they need to refine it a bit. So those are sort of my positives.
Yeah. And I hope they do. I mean, I hope they do listen to the feedback that is out there. I know, I watched a lot of the shows. After I watched Game of Wool, I then went and watched a lot of the shows where people were expressing their outrage. And some of them were fair, and like they tried to be like, these are the positives, these are the negatives. Some of them were really mostly positive, and then a good portion of them were like, what the? Wait, what? No. And they were fun to watch. For that reason. And then one show I watched, two Black women in England who were watching the show together, and they were so funny. And the husband finally got involved because they would meet together and they would record themselves while they were watching it. But then they would edit, right? So you didn't see them watching the whole hour or whatever. You just saw the pieces of it when they were watching. And at a certain point, I don't know how many episodes in, the husband gets involved. The husband of one of them gets involved, and he comes in and he's like, okay, I've heard you talking about this and this and this the last time, and I just saw this again, And so he was involved. Very funny. I can't remember you can find them if you just Google and go on YouTube and find, people can find them if they just go on YouTube and look up Game of Wool. You'll find not just the episodes, but lots of episodes of people reviewing it, let's just say, which was fun.
Yeah, my comment about being it's a good start and hopefully they'll take the viewer feedback. I would say my sense when I was watching it is the people who were putting the show together didn't really know anything about the craft of knitting or crocheting. Yes. Because it is the title is finding the UK's, whatever it was, but best knitter. But most of the projects were predominantly crochet.
Yes.
And it's sort of like if you asked me to make a show about fly fishing and tying flies, I have no idea where to start. Or ask me to do a show about astrophysics. Pick something. I mean, I've actually been fly fishing, so maybe I could start with that. But it felt like they didn't really know about the subject. But they're trying to put a show together, but not really any knowledge of of the craft.
Right.
So some of the contests seemed,
oh, yes.
I was gonna say ridiculous, but just not really reasonable or doable or practical, or they didn't make any sense.
Well, yes, I think that's a big thing. The projects didn't make a whole lot of sense from the standpoint of they should have. I think it would have been better to pick projects that you could do in a reasonable amount of time. Mm-hmm. Projects you could do in a reasonable amount of time, rather than projects using big, giant, bulky yarn so you could do it faster, right? Or projects that somebody actually would want to make. Like, I do not care to make a beach chair. That is not interesting, right?
No.
There are other things. Okay, the dog sweaters were cute. I'm not going to complain about the dog sweaters. That was a cute idea, and it's a small version of something that you can knit. So that was okay. But some of the stuff that they had, the lamp, I don't know. That just there just were so many things that people who knit and crochet typically don't knit and crochet. And why it would be like having a baking show and asking you to bake a chair. Like, make a chair out of gingerbread. Like, what? Who does that? Okay, a gingerbread house? Yes, but a chair? What? It was kind of like that. I think, so that was a little bit of my frustration, was the choice of projects when there actually are plenty of really interesting projects that they could have done.
About the Fair Isle vest project. And they actually talk about the fact that they're using this really super bulky yarn, and you would never do that in Fair Isle. And I know there's the whole controversy that is actually, they were not actually using a Fair Isle technique. They're just doing color work. Mm-hmm. You would never do a bulky Fair Isle sweater color like that bulky. But they said the reason they're doing it is they had 10 hours or 12, whatever the time constraints are. And my feeling is, well, why didn't they just they did not sit there for 10 hours and make that sweater. Mm-hmm. They had breaks. They had to have breaks. They can't sit there physically for 10 hours and do it. So why not give them 2 days to make a Fair Isle hat,
right,
or a mitten or something, and I don't understand is if they're saying that this is not the type of yarn that you would make a Fair Isle or a color work vest or sweater out of. Why are they selling those kits on the Rowan website?
Exactly. Exactly.
I don't understand that. That's my interjection. Okay, go. You were going to say something though.
Yeah. So now I'm kind of forgetting where I was going, but I think we were talking about the crochet versus knitting. When it's called, Britain's Best Knitter. But the other thing that I thought was also irritating was, okay, it's called Game of Wool. Now, I do know that in the UK, they call yarn wool. Like that's a word, it's a term they use for yarn. So when they say Game of Wool, did they mean like game of yarn? Or did they mean like game of the hair that comes off of sheep, right? Wool, wool fiber. And if they did mean wool fiber, and they showed a whole lot of sheep, so I'm guessing they did mean wool fiber. If they did mean wool fiber, then why did they have the yarns that they had? Like, they weren't knitting with wool and crocheting with wool.
No.
They weren't knitting and crocheting with wool when they made the beach chair. Like, frustrating. And then the other thing, these are just little petty issues. But all the cones of yarn along the wall of the yarn barn, those are weaving yarns. Like, people don't knit with yarns and cones. I mean, okay, People with knitting machines knit with cone yarn. I've knit with cone yarn, but that looked like a weaver's wall. When I saw that, I was like, oh, that's really pretty, but that would be for weavers. So that bothered me. And then roving. They kept showing roving over and over and over in balls of roving. Like, okay, come on. Is it yarn? Are you knitting? Is it wool? Like, get your story straight. So, and so much opportunity. I mean, like, British wool. There are so many sheep breeds. It's a historic thing. They have the Shetland knitters right there. It's not like they were making this in the United States and they would have had to, contact another country to ask about Fair Isle. It's right there. It's their own country. Why didn't they talk to the Shetland knitting or Shetland Organization of Knitters, I think is what it's called, who issued a statement of their heritage craft being misrepresented. Like, okay, so many things about that bothered me. And then one other thing that I wanted to say, about the sheep. Like, why didn't they talk about those sheep breeds? Like, what breed of sheep were they showing when they showed those sheep on the hillside the whole time? Like, tell us something. Educate us. Give us some information. Yeah. Right? And I don't mind, I'm not saying it has to be like an encyclopedic show of knitting, but
right.
But all of those people, like your friend, who were inspired, would also have been interested in knowing about the British sheep breeds. And then I'll just do one last little rant.
Okay. Oh, I have a few more. So
okay, I'll do my one last rant.
Okay.
Is about the Gordon's knitting. Now, I know there was a whole big thing about him steeking and all that. Then, yes, other people have said that. You might be saying that. But what I'm going to point out is never until the very end when he was leaving did I notice or see, was it even visible, that he was, at least that I could tell, that he was knitting with a knitting belt. And I didn't see him actually knitting with the knitting belt. I just saw that he was wearing the knitting belt. Now, that's a fascinating thing. And I went and watched his videos, Man Knitted in Scotland. He has a few. He doesn't have very many. But he showed how they knit with the knitting belt. And they only use 3 double-pointed needles. Not 3 needles with one active, one working needle. 2 needles with 1 active working needle. Like, that's interesting. That's really interesting. And nothing, zilch about that.
Yeah, yeah. He did talk about, because he had to make this sweater or this vest with such big yarn, he had to take just regular needles and cut the end off and make them and whittle them down into double.
Didn't he use,
because Fair Isles?
Oh yeah. He used regular wooden needles in a really large size, right?
In a large size, but he removed the non-pointed end. He removed that and carved it down to a point, because they don't. According to him, my understanding is they don't make Fair Isle needles that big, because you would never use that type of yarn.
Correct. Yeah.
But I would say in the context of Gordon too, I wrote down here, that create a drama where none existed. Knitting is its own drama. And
as your projects have shown.
I got my own drama here, right? I got a lot of drama going here with my knitting. And so that's the thing, is I felt like they manufactured drama that was not actually necessary, because my understanding about Gordon is the reason why he ran out of time is he had a mistake and he ripped back a number of inches to repair the mistake. And so that's why he ran out of time, he would have finished on time. And so everybody's like, oh, it was so risky that he was doing the steeking. But steeking is not inherently risky. I don't think. Well, I say that. I've not done it. But
well, he has a whole video where
centuries.
he talks about why that wasn't the problem. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's unfair to represent that his choice to steek it was somehow the reason why he was eliminated, and that was a mistake, and that was highly risky. I don't think it's highly risky. It's just but that's how it's portrayed.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to say this about the judges, and I'm just going to say, well, first of all, my reaction to the judges. I did not like the judges. And now I'm gonna say something later on, because we had communication from Ella, who was at the knitting retreat that I attended in Scotland. She was there, and I have a comment from her. But my initial reaction was could not stand the judges. I hated the knitwear. They were like the stereotype of old ladies who knit, with the knitting needles in their buns and glasses halfway down their nose, and then ill-fitting sweaters, like multiple layers of knitting, but nothing fitting well, saggy, baggy. That's not what I think of knitters. I mean, the knitters I know are stylish, and they wear stylish things, and and I did not like how emotional they were, and crying over some of the finished garments, really irritated me. This is where I had moved into the rage watching at this point. I didn't like how they were made to look frumpy and old and finicky, and that they were here now. They're asking knitters to do these projects that they're having to rush through, and then they're being criticized on their technique. And not just, and there was a lot of just like, oh, well, this is dropped and this is not right. And this, like all this little detail kind of stuff, which seems so unfair when people are rushing to make something.
Right. Well, and
now having said that, oh, go ahead.
I'm just going to say, on the other hand, in the very first episode, the vest that wasn't finished caused the person to be removed. The vest that you couldn't even put on your head, which to me is also not finished.
Right.
That person got to stay. Like, what kind of judging is that? Yeah. The thing can't even be worn. I mean, how is that different from a sweater that's not finished, from a vest that's not finished? Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so now I'm going to read what Ella sent to me. Because so Ella said, I have to declare a bias. An older friend of mine, in both senses, she's 85 and I've known her for 45 years, is also a very good friend of Sheila Greenwell. My pal was having lunch with Sheila last month and reported that according to Sheila, all the judges' comments in the judging section were scripted. Most of the positives were edited out, leaving a very negative impression. Those of us who have met and talked to Di and Sheila at yarn festivals were shocked at how they were portrayed at the time. Really unfair. They also edited out lots of interesting facts about the contestants. Gordon, the steeker, cast off in the first episode, is a noted singer and performer on the classical music circuit. Which I'm going to interject. I think he was portrayed as a cruise singer or something. And then she goes on to say, the winner was, in my opinion, the best of the bunch. But calling it the search for Britain's best knitter was at least half the challenges involved crochet was ridiculous. There probably is a germ of better program in there, but this wasn't it. But that's interesting what she said about the judges, because they were picked because they have a skill set. But it does sound like they were unfairly or intentionally portrayed a certain way.
Well, and I think all
fit a stereotype.
all the contestants. Well, I don't know about all of them, but I would say just based on what was done with Gordon, and I mean, he was put in a little tiny pigeonhole of, cruise ship lounge singer, and And I'm pretty sure everybody else was put in a little tiny pigeonhole too. And to me, that's really like, I think the audience is smarter than that. You could have a little more, you could have a little more respect for your audience to have the people be more dimensional. You don't have to tell their whole backstory, but even on the British Baking Show, they talk a little bit about each of the contestants. You know, you get a little bit of information. And maybe it's pigeonhole information too. Maybe they're, you know, meant to play a particular role, but it doesn't feel that way. And maybe it's because the British Baking Show started on the BBC and, you know, was eventually moved into commercial television. And this one is just started on commercial television. And maybe that's the disappointing difference. I don't know. That's my own bias about public TV, but yeah, I hope it gets better. I'd like to see a second season, and I hope the second season is better. And I'm glad it was made in the first place. That I think is good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm not done making my comments.
Okay, go ahead, Marsha. Let it go.
And this might be heresy to say this, but Tom Daley, I think he's funny and he's sweet and he's cute. But this is the heresy part. I think his knitting designs are terrible. And I always, do you remember when I first heard of Tom Daley was the Summer Olympics, when he won the gold for diving and he had knit a little bag for his gold medal. And so I started following him. And then I remember at the time being sort of having some feelings about the fact that he got a book deal. They printed a book of his patterns. And all, again, was super chunky yarn and ill-fitting, where there's so many fabulous knitters out there that don't have book deals, you know? And because he's a good-looking, and he's a man knitting, and a good-looking man knitting, and he has a body that he can wear all these crazy looks, I am kind of offended that there's so much attention given to him when his actual knitting designs, I think, are not very good. And the stuff he was wearing, I'm sorry, ridiculous. That's ridiculous stuff he was wearing. Am I wrong?
I'm the one
too critical.
No, I'm the one who texted you during the very first episode and said the ugliest knitwear I've ever seen. I mean, between his and the judges' knitwear, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I watching here?
Yeah, terrible. Yeah.
So,
well, let me see.
What else you got, Marsha?
Oh, well, the other thing I wrote down, and actually, this is not my criticism. I actually watched a video where they were talking about, and I finally had to stop watching it, but they pointed out, and it goes back to it. I don't think that the producers knew enough about the subject, but the graphics, when they would do graphics talking about, and I'm like, those had to have been AI generated because the crochet fabric looked exactly like the knit fabric. The crochet had 2 crochet hooks. It reminded me very much of the AI picture that you just were experimenting with about, you wanted a picture of people knitting, but they had crochet hooks, or they had a ball of yarn that was divided in half. You know,
half the ball was one
red.
color. Yeah,
there's no way you could. There's no way you could wind a ball of yarn that way.
Yeah.
So I think they just used AI to generate those graphics, and they were again just pointing to just no real knowledge of the craft.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Sort of like going back to the idea, like having me do a show about fly fishing and tying flies. And I just decided, well, I'm just going to have an AI generated graphic of tying flies. I think that's what it was, an AI version of tying flies. That's kind of what we were looking at, but a knitting version of that, you know? So Do you have anything else you want to say, Kelly?
I don't think so. I think I said it all. And that being said, I did enjoy it. I watched all the episodes, and then I enjoyed watching all the episodes on YouTube of people talking about what they hated about it. So I got a lot of entertainment value.
Well, I have to say, I was very excited about watching this. I heard that this was coming out, and then it was available. I just watched it on YouTube, and I was very excited to watch the first episode, and then I kept thinking, well, that was slightly disappointing, but maybe it'll get better, And I just was, I was very excited and looking forward to watching it. Slightly disappointed. There is some fun in rage watching something.
Yes. Well, when
not exactly all.
When the world is burning down and every day feels like one outrage after another, sometimes it's cathartic to have your outrage be about a television show on knitting.
That's true. But let me just say, I like the contestants, and I was frustrated by the judges, but my sense was these people there's a lot more going on with all these people than is being shown in this series. And I would like them to do another one. I would watch it.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see, do they take some of this feedback? They're not going to get our feedback ever, but just other feedback. I'm sure they're getting a lot of feedback from people. And can they make it better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be good. That would be really good.
Yeah.
And I wish that reality TV shows didn't feel like they needed a director and like a director and a script. I mean, okay, you don't want people just rambling and rambling and rambling, but some of it, we'd like a little of it to actually be real.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think these shows, they need to have some sort of tension in them.
Finishing a project to make people, in a short period of time is enough tension, I would think, right?
Exactly. But if I watch the Great British Baking Show, the way it's edited, something didn't bake right, or it didn't set, and there's all this drama around it didn't set, and part of that, that drama is created because of the timeline. You can't put a chilled, you can't have a warm cake and frost it and think it's going to be okay, right? But because they have these really tight times, its drama is built into that, because you have to let something chill for several hours sometimes, like a filling to put it in a cake, right? Everything has to chill. Anyway, my point is the timelines create the drama and the tension, but it seems like when we watch shows as human beings, we want to have some sort of tension and drama in there to compel us to watch.
That's true. Right? Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. You want it to be interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, all that negativity, I'll watch the next season that comes out. If there is another season, I will definitely watch it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And if there are people buying those kits and learning to knit, well, that's not a bad thing. If people are enjoying knitting is a great thing. So the world needs new knitters.
Yep.
Oh, and speaking of new knitters, the biathlon team, they all knit during the Olympics. That was fun to watch. I follow one of the guys who made a beautiful sweater on during the Olympics. So I follow him on Instagram. So anyway, the U.S. Is it the U.S. team? Canadian team? I don't know whose team. I can't remember whose team it is.
The guy who made the green and gray sweater, I thought he was Canadian.
Yeah, I think it's the Canadian team.
Actually,
Canadian biathlon.
God, now I don't even know.
Well, anyway, there was more knitting in the Winter Olympics. Let's just say that. There was lots of knitting in the Winter Olympics. And so that was very cool. Yeah. So, okay, so
Tom Daley started something.
He started something, and that's also a good thing, right? That's also a good thing.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
So, All right. So I am going to add another good thing. So because I was so intrigued by the knitting belt and the way that the Fair Isle was being knitted, I talked to Marsha about we should have a colorwork knit along. So we're having a colorwork knit along. It doesn't have to be Fair Isle. It's just any kind of colorwork. And it's starting now. So March through June 1st, and knit some colorwork with us. Marsha's got her colorwork sweater. I'm doing this shawl, but what I really want to do is a hat, and I want to do the hat that that Gordon talked about in his videos. I think it would be. I need to start with something small, like a hat. I've done very little colorwork. I did the orca sweater. That's stranded knitting. But I haven't done a lot. I did Robert's Moose hat, but I haven't done the real style of Fair Isle. And in his videos, he was talking about the choices of color and how they choose the background color and the foreground color and the cools and warms. And I got really intrigued by watching his there's just a few videos. But anyway, the hat is the Acht hat by Hazel Tindall. Okay. And let me go there. And he talks about the hat in his videos. But it's really pretty and it looks pretty straightforward. It's got, one main motif around the hat and then another motif on the crown. And then the brim is basically just some stripes. And I thought, okay, I think I would like to make this. There's only 21 projects on Ravelry, so there's not a lot to look at there. But I'm really intrigued, and I'm going to find myself a knitting belt. I already have the knitting pins because I used those when I made the Argyle. That's another kind of color work that I've done. That's what's it called? Where you have the bobbins. What's that kind of color work called?
It's like, isn't that
Intarsia? Yeah. So Argyles are Intarsia. So I've dabbled. I'll say I'm a dabbler. I'm a color work dabbler. But I would really like to make this hat and explore that whole idea of the cools and warms and the combinations of colors that you use in the foreground and the background. Because there's a lot of color changing that is very subtle. Where like there's a light blue and a slightly darker blue and then a slightly darker blue all in the same motif. And you don't even really see that it's changed, but it makes a depth that is very interesting. So I'm going to do a little bit of research and learn some Fair Isle, some traditional Fair Isle. I was inspired. So, but any kind of color work counts.
Yes. Well, and I'm thinking of doing, I would recommend to anybody, let me go back to, I did the Nicholas Slouch hat.
Yes.
Do you remember that, Kelly? The orange and, let me tell you what it is in my projects, because that was a nice hat. It's called the Nicholas Slouch, and the designer is Kyle Konecki.
Oh, right.
And I did it kind of orangey rust and cream. But that's a nice hat. I think it's a nice pattern. And then, well, I'm working on my sweater, but the other one I wanted to do is a hat. I'm going here real quickly. Oh, here it is. It's called the Alpine Bloom hat. And it's Caitlin Hunter. And Caitlin Hunter does a ton of like colorwork sweaters and stuff. But it's interesting. This one is just two colors. And what some people have done, so it's like flowers and leaves on it. So a lot of them, like the background is dark and then the flower and leaves are a lighter color. Or what they do is they do like a gradient or a self-striping yarn or some kind of, the contrasting yarn changes because the yarn changes, not because the pattern is changing the colors. And so I thought that might be kind of a fun one to do.
Yeah.
So we'll have to start a colorwork bundle.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
This Alpine Bloom hat has 3,392 projects.
Wow.
So lots to look at to get ideas.
Okay. Cool.
And then anything else we have to mention?
Well, just a month left in the winter weave along. I think I said that already. Starting the colorwork knit along. I'm headed to the Conference of Northern California Hand Weavers in May, and then we're both going to Vermont to do some weaving in July. But other than that, I think we've covered everything in our notes, Marsha.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't know how long this is.
Just about an hour.
Our ranting. Oh, that's not too bad. For all that ranting that we did.
Yes.
Anyway.
It was our kind critique.
Well, yeah, I tried to be positive. Yeah, I'm waiting for the next season.
Yeah.
Alrighty, we'll talk.
All right, Marsha. Bye, everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening. To subscribe to the podcast, visit 2usfiberadventures.com.
Join us on our adventures on Ravelry and Instagram. I am Better in Motion, and Kelly is 100 Projects.
Until next time, we're the 2Us
doing our part for World Fleece.